during one of the last questions as well, you mentioned about having a couple of offers on the table when you were leaving the club. Were there any offers given to you while you were at the club that were maybe from higher level clubs that you, well, if you weren't Nuneaton born and bred, you'd probably snapped at the chance to go to?
I did throughout the years. League football clubs, particularly when I was younger, in my first sort of couple of years when I was 18, 19. So I know that Northampton were interested in me, and it was something I sat down with the gaffer about and discussed, and I didn't feel it was right for me to go there at the time. And then when the gaffer went to Wrexham, he wanted to take me with him, and he asked me to go with him. But again, I wasn't willing to give up my career to go and play Conference Premier football as a professional football player. Is something that I just thought, for me and the career that I've got, it would have to be league football for me to vacate what I'm doing. It didn't feel right, so he asked me to go with him, and I didn't go. And then in leaving Nuneaton, when I did finally leave Nuneaton, it was sort of reluctantly as such, because the club went full time, and they stated that they offered me a contract, but they didn't actually offer me a contract, because they stated that they were going to have part-time and full-time footballers, but all the training was to be during daytime hours, which didn't fit into my life because obviously I had a full-time job. And I also was told that I was going to take a significant pay cut as well, which I was understanding of having a pay cut after getting relegated from the Conference Prem. It didn't bother me, but the pay cut which was offered was in excess of 50% of what I was on. And yeah, like I say, that was the first point. And then point number two was that I would have to train in the daytime, which I couldn't physically do. So I didn't actually get offered a deal at Nuneaton, and it felt a little bit like you were pushed. And then at the end of the conversation, it was like, I'll leave that with you to go and see what you think. And I was thinking, well, there's not actually a lot for me to think about. I haven't got a deal on the table. So I went home, spoke it over with my dad, and I was truly gutted, to be honest, because I didn't want to leave the football club after getting relegated. I thought, I'm not the sort of person to walk away. I want to sort of roll my sleeves up and wear my heart on my sleeve and fight to get the club back into the Conference Prem. And I didn't really have the opportunity to do that. So, it was a frustrating period. But yeah, so in terms of throughout my years, I've had offers to move elsewhere, but I've always wanted to stay at Nuneaton. And even when I left Nuneaton, I didn't want to go, but I was sort of pushed out the door, really.
Yeah, and you mentioned about the offers, between you and Kev Wilson and Steve Chettle, that it would have been at the time. How was your relationship with previous managers after Kev left?
Difficult, really difficult, and it probably to me was the first time in my life that I'd ever had to deal with that. And when Brian Reid came in, he was, what's the best way of wording it? I would say he was naive in how he chose to come into that level of football. We were playing teams like Braintree away, who at the time were making the playoffs every single year. They were just not a massive club in terms of their infrastructure, but they were making the playoffs like year on year. And they had a good manager in Alan Devonshire. And we were going away to teams like that, and he was going, listen, these aren't Real Madrid. They're not a good team. I don't know anything about them. We should be able to beat these. And it just felt a little bit to me like, do you actually know what this level of football is about? Like, there's some really, really good teams, and we need to know, do our research on them and know who we're coming up against, and not just go out there and with sort of little instruction, little know-how of how to get through a game of football in terms of opposition and stuff. And unsurprisingly, he sort of moved on after a short period, and then Liam Daish came in. I had a real good face-to-face meeting with him in the bar, and sort of he went through what he wanted to know, what he felt the other manager, Brian, had got wrong, and he came in, and I just didn't see eye to eye with him at all. Like he wasn't someone who I could sort of see myself playing for in the long run. He sort of isolated the players with personality, like the likes of Gavin, me, Brownie, Theo, James Arms and Adam Walker's. Just it became for me a little bit like a bullying culture. You know, I was a contractor at the time at JLR, and I got told I was suspended, and I got told to travel down to Dover, which cost me half a day's money. So I was like, okay, perfectly fine. And I went to get changed, to put on some running kit, to go and do some fitness work before the game. And he said, like, what are you doing? Why are you getting changed? Like, I'm going to do my running. And he was like, no, I don't want to see you go up in the stands. So I travelled to Dover to sit and watch the team get beat 6-1, and I wasn't even allowed to do any fitness work. He made me train by myself because we didn't see eye to eye. He left me out of the squad for weeks, which again, I'm not bothered about. If he sees me not as a player that he fits into his system of way of working, then fine. And then, yeah, after the last game of the season, I got a text to say, like, I got it wrong about you. I think you've been brilliant the last 3 months. And it was sort of a bit too much for me by that point. I was a little bit like, yeah, you've gone a little bit too far here. So it wasn't, yeah, I sort of struggled after the gaffer left with those two managers. But then at the same time, I went across to Solihull and I had a real good time there. Got on really well with the coach and stuff, and Marcus and the manager there and stuff. It was enjoyable. So I just think Nuneaton's recruitment of managers during that period, to me, when I said earlier on in this conversation that I think the club's direction with players and who it was bringing in is also management as well. Like bringing in people who don't know anything about the football club and what it means to people. And when I start seeing players come through the door who, in my opinion, were looking for sort of their final payout and stuff like that, it was I'd have struggled to deal with it emotionally, to be honest, and it probably showed in my performances because I think I was an angry human being that year.
Yeah, when you mentioned about being naive, I actually held my hands up this season. I thought the club were going to absolutely smash this league that we're in now, and then over the time of me watching this season, I've realised that even at this level of football, there is some decent teams. I mean, Redditch, when we lost,
you have to be respectful of them all, like 100%. Like it's any level of football. Like when I was at Solihull, the amount of detail that we went into about opposition, like we had scout reports on every team. Even we played Oadby in the FA Cup, who were, I don't even know what step they are in terms of non-league football, but we got sent out full scout reports. We got into training on Wednesday. We looked at doing 11v11 shape, how they set up against how we're going to set up, where we can hurt them, where their strengths are going to be, where their overloads are going to be, where our overloads on the pitch are going to be, where we want to sort of play through the thirds and sort of where we're going to have loads of time on the ball and where we can sort of get in behind them. And just, it was honestly so much detail, but it was so precise and so structured. It was brilliant. I absolutely loved it. And Brackley are the same. Like, we get scout reports on every single team. Some people choose to read it, some people don't. I'm a little bit busy, so I like to know who I'm playing against and what their strengths and weaknesses are, and also like set piece things and stuff like that. So I just think it's useful information to have, and I think you should always respect your opponent no matter what level they play at, really.
Yeah, definitely. For me, it was Redditch and Leiston. They were on really, really bad runs of form, and I went to the game. I was like, "Oh, we're going to win this," and then we lost both of them. And I was like, looking at the scenes, I was like, "These aren't too bad." I mean, Redditch, the fight that they had in them when, like, to beat us, sort of thing. was immense. You just sort of looked at them and they were just running at us, and you didn't really expect it, but
Yeah.
you've got to expect it, didn't you? It's like
Hmm.
it's like anything at any level you get, like FA Cups, you get clubs that are beating league teams and whatnot and causing upsets. I mean, I know Borough fans are going to hate me mentioning this, but Tamworth a couple of years ago got to play Everton in the FA Cup. I mean, you know, Premier League sides come into competitions later. You've got to beat some flipping decent sides to get there.
Yeah, of course, 100%.
So, yeah. Anyway, back to some questions from fans. Of course, well, it's not really a fan, is it, Jimmy? He put in his question about your thoughts on Richie Norman.
Yeah, so I absolutely love him. Love the bloke to pieces. Miss him immensely. When I was there, he was sort of someone who, to me, was like day-to-day routine of seeing him. Used to go and knock on the physio's room, go and have a cup of tea with him. Him and Ego used to just sit and talk about our days and stuff. We used to listen to his stories 10 times over because he used to forget he told me 10 minutes before. And he is just the most gentle, lovely, like, bloke you can ever imagine to meet, with so many stories and so humble, and ultimately, if that bloke was playing football today, he'd be a multimillionaire.
Yeah.
And that's the sort of harsh reality of it. He'd be a multimillionaire, and he's perfect for Nuneaton, and he's everything that football club should and wants to be. And unfortunately, we lost Rex sort of not long ago, and for me, those two people were such a huge part of my time at that football club, and I could never imagine it without them. And even when I come down to watch games on a Tuesday night or something, when I've been given a night off training at Brackley and I've come down, they're the first people I look to go and find and give a hug and stuff like that. And I can remember sitting in the bar with Rex and watching him eat his sandwich and just having a chit chat with him, and then Richie would come over with his cup of tea. And to me, it's like they are everything that football club should be, is sort of community and the locality of it. And yeah, like I say, miss him so much, and it's one of the reasons why I was absolutely gutted to leave, because it's sort of, you think, oh, actually, I'm not going to see this bloke now. Like, when am I going to see him? And especially now that we're not at the same level. So I was fortunate when I was at Solihull, we were still playing in the same league, so I was going to see him twice a year and maybe go and sneak and watch a game. But now that we're sort of at different levels, it's like you don't see these people, and it's sad, because especially, like I say, it's like we lost Rex, and for me, it's not like I've sort of had the opportunity to spend all the time that I had previously with him. And I can always remember there's actually, me and Gav Cowan were both, I think, either suspended or injured away at Torquay. And I've got a lovely photo of me, Gavin, and Richie. And Richie's like passing the ball to us. And he just looks like a proper a bill of health. He looks like a young bloke who's just on the pitch kicking the ball around. And to me, it's like that photo is everything. It's three people, two people I absolutely adore, and it's something that photo is going to stay with me forever, really.
Yeah, you mentioned your relationship, obviously, with Gav, and then Gav Cowan, and you've got Adam Walker as well, who you've been mates with. We've actually got a pre-season friendly against Telford, so we might see you down there.
Might see me down there.
Yeah, if you come down to watch, to see a few of your old mates.
Yeah, I might be blooming playing myself. That's the problem. Yeah, I'm in touch with those guys all the time. So, like I say, I've probably, my earlier years at Nuneaton, I still talk to like Justin Marsden, your Guy Hadland, your Gav Cowans, your obviously James and Adam are both massive parts of my life still, and pretty much talk to them every day. But yeah, I'm in touch with loads of people who I've enjoyed time with at Nuneaton. But yeah, Gavin and and Adam are two people who I'm still in contact with quite a lot. Yeah.
And you as well, you mentioned earlier about how Kev's been such a massive influence on you, sort of thing, during your career. Is there any way that the Borough could ever get you back?
I don't know. You're going to get Kevin Wilkin back. I don't know. Like everything changes in football. Like you don't know, because I know the gaffer's very ambitious, and my dream for him is to have him to have the opportunity to manage a team in the league maybe one day, or a higher division, and give it another crack. I think he was treated unfairly at Wrexham, and I actually went to watch that game, that FA Trophy final against North Ferriby, and they should have won that competition, and he ended up losing his job after it, and I was gutted for him. So I don't know. It's a difficult question to answer, because you don't ever know where things are going to change in the future and what ups and downs are going to happen. Because obviously, if Kev Wilkin left Brackley, is the whole infrastructure and change of Brackley going to change them? But while he's manager at Brackley and he still wants me to kick a ball around for him, as it would be very, very difficult to pry me away, really, because I wouldn't even pick up the phone from another team, and that's the God's honest answer on that question.
And as well with Brackley, you've got quite a few former Borough lads in there that you've played with, and then some that you haven't. Do you think that's benefited you in a way with you having good relationships when they've come in?
Yeah, like when I went to Brackley, like I said earlier, as the gaffer said to me, like, I need you to sort this change room, and I was like, what do you mean? He was like, it's a mess, and there was just no discipline there. And then I went in, and a lot of the players I didn't know, and the first year was really, really good. Like we had such a great little group of players, used to go on nights out together, and we used to really enjoy ourselves, and it was really, really good. And part of that is obviously you've got throughout the years that I've been at Brackley, we've had Connor Franklin, James Armson, Adam Walker, Andy Brown, Theo Street. Like you've had a bit of an influx of Nuneaton players in there, and then at the same time as well, we had a bit of an influx of Solihull players then coming in. So again, Andy Brown, Theo, Jack Byrne, Danny Lewis, all these players had sort of been with me at Solihull. So I think it's the gaffer is sort of tried and trusted. He puts a lot of trust in players that he's worked with previously. But at the same time, he's got a group at Brackley now in particular that he's sort of put together and built, and players that weren't in the team 3 years ago that were actually contracted to that club are now sort of regular fixtures within the team, who play week in, week out, and arguably can be some of the first names that he writes down on his team sheet. So, I think he's done a real good job at Brackley.
And of course, you mentioned Jack Byrne. You've had 2 spells with him, of course, at Solihull and then at Brackley before he came to the Borough. How was your relationship with him?
I get on really well with him. So for me, he was went in at Solihull. I think he used to think I was a bit of a weirdo with my banter and stuff that I used to do. But yeah, really, really top bloke, family orientated guy. Loved a bit of a crack and a laugh in the change room. Very good football player. Not the most mobile, but first touch and passing range and sort of knowledge and know-how of how to get through games and manage games of football. Sort of get overlooked at times, or the latter of what I've just said, like in terms of game management and stuff. He's really, really good at. He knows when to sort of pick the tempo of a game up, when to slow it down, when you're on the ropes and stuff, slowing the game down. But then when you're in the ascendancy, getting on the ball and moving it quickly and switching it side to side. And he's a good player, and unfortunately he's a player that again had a bad injury at training at Brackley, actually on a cold night up at the top at Brackley, and I'm just glad to see him back on a football pitch doing what he does well, and hopefully he can kick on now.
Then again, you've got a player with the stature of Carl Baker, who was a really, really good player in his prime. What's it like to play with him?
He's unbelievable. Technically, I actually showed Jess a video of him on Twitter the other day doing some skills in the garden and stuff like that, and she was like, "Oh, he's blooming good." But he's yeah, I'd hate to think how well that bloke could have moved when he was 26, 7, 8 years old in his sort of prime years and playing league football, because he still turns people inside out with his chop, and he doesn't just chop you once, he chops you about 4 times, then ends up putting you on your backside in the middle of the dirt somewhere. So he's a top bloke, get on really well with him again, and he's phenomenally talented. I don't think you can really do it justice until you sort of come up against him as a defender and you're trying to sort of not commit, and you sort of see an opportunity where you think, right, I'll go have a little prod at that, and then, like I say, he just changes the ball's direction so quickly, and he's if I can move around as well as him when I'm 37, 38 years old, then I'll be pleased, but I don't think I will.
And then finally, I've got a little bit of a quiz thing that I'm sort of doing with players now. I'm pretty sure you know what Football Manager is.
Say it again.
I'm pretty sure you know what Football Manager is, don't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, you ever played it?
You're not going to try and get me to guess my stats, are
you? Something along those lines. Basically, I'm going to compare 2 players in the Brackley.
Technique 3.
Technique's a 3 for you. Let's have a look. Technique. No, your technique's actually a 10. It's what are your highest?
10 out of 100.
I don't know what it's out of, to be honest.
I'll take that. 10 out of 100, I'll take that. That's polite, I think.
But it's one of your highest stats, to be honest. So, yeah, I'm going to pick 2 players from the Brackley side, tell you a stat, basically, and you've just got to guess who's higher, sort of thing. We'll start with yourself and Kelvin Langmead. Why not? Who do you reckon's got the highest heading stat out of you 2?
I don't know. He's good in the air. He is good in the air. But I'm going to say me because I don't lose many headers. So, but I might be wrong.
Yeah, you are 1 higher than him in your heading stat.
I'll tell him that in the group chat tonight. He won't be happy with that.
he'll be straight on the phone to people trying to get that sorted. But
he is a bit of a keyboard warrior on social media, so he'll probably be on the Twitter page, the Football Manager, tonight and get it changed. It'll be modified in the morning. You're joking, but I bet it will be.
To be honest, yeah. Well, going via the value of the player here between you and Kelvin, who do you think's worth more?
Oh, definitely him. His signature's worth more than mine.
According to this, you're actually worth more than him.
What am I worth? £200?
No, well, I don't know how accurate this is, but it's in euros for some reason. But apparently, you're worth 29.8 thousand euros.
I wouldn't pay that for me.
And Kelvin's worth 2.8.
Yeah, that's about right. Yeah.
Then let's go with Shane Byrne and Carl Baker. Then I mean, those 2 flipping insane players. I tell you, when Shane was down at the Borough, I was at Anchor, and Carl, I was absolutely mesmerised by them both. I mean, I was a lot younger when Shane was at the club. I mean, you've seen the picture, you know, I can't remember.
Yeah, he's a good player.
I can't remember how old I was when that was. That would have been, that'd have been
2015.
Yeah, 2015. So I'd have been,
years ago.
I'd have been what, 10, 11? Yeah, probably about 10. But yeah, we'll go with Shane Byrne and Carl Baker. Who's better physically?
Physically?
Yeah, physically.
Well, I can tell you Carl Baker's got a better physique. But I'll go for Shane just because he's a little bit taller and a bit broader, probably.
Yeah, Shane's rated 10 and Carl's rated 9. So according to this, you've only actually got... wait, is that... Yeah, it says you've only got the 1 keeper signed to the club. So...
yeah, we have, yeah.
Danny Lewis. Would James be back up there if anything was to happen to him? Would you have to put James in goal?
Yeah, but then James is not bad, but then Glenn Walker's all right as well. And he's a bit of a weirdo. He should be in a circus, not playing football. He can balance chairs on his head and juggle 10 balls at once and do weird keep you up things with his feet. He's just genuinely a bit of a circus freak, that bloke. So I'll put him in there because he's good with his hands.
Right. I think that's all I've got for you. So.
Oh, mate, top man.
All right then. I'll let you get back to whatever you're doing.
Not a lot.
All right. Cheers.
All right,